So you mentioned like the friend coming over and seeing it on the coffee table. Like that's what you expect the magazine to be featured. You can kind of want to position it as like a collector's item, something that they wouldn't just throw in their magazine rack, that it would be somewhere like prominently positioned in the home or something, or an office or something like that.
Yes, and I'll tell you the thing that I find to be the best. So just because we're here, I'm hopping on my phone. I just went to eBay and I just typed in Mountain Gazette. And I want to show you. The first thing there is Mountain Gazette 202 from 2024. It's $50 right there on eBay. Here's 1970s Mountain Gazette 49 issues, $750.
Hello, I'm Simon Owens, and this is The Business of Content, the show about how publishers create, distribute, and monetize their digital content. When Mike Rogge purchased Mountain Gazette in early 2020, he wasn't acquiring a thriving media business. For $5,000 and the cost of a couple beers, he bought a dormant outdoor magazine brand whose main assets consisted of a URL, a trademark, decades of archives, and boxes of old issues sitting in storage. But Rogge believed the magazine's legacy, which included contributions from writers like Hunter S. Thompson and Edward Abbey, still carried meaning. At a time when many publishers were chasing algorithms and scale, he wanted to prove there was still a market for a beautifully designed print publication built around passionate readers rather than fleeting clicks. 5 years later, Mountain Gazette has grown into a profitable independent magazine with tens of thousands of subscribers who pay for 2 oversized print issues a year. In our interview, Rogge explained why he rejected the traditional ad-driven media model, how a subscriber-first approach allowed him to invest more into writers and photographers, and why he believes print's resurgence is tied to a broader backlash against an increasingly digital world. If you want to listen to an audio version of this show, subscribe to The Business of Content wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching this on YouTube, gently tap on that subscribe button so you can watch more interviews with the world's most successful media entrepreneurs. Okay, let's jump into the interview. Hey Mike, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Simon.
So super excited to talk to you. You are the owner and editor of a magazine, a premium magazine that you bought and revived called the Mountain Gazette, and I want to jump into talk about all of that. But first, I just want to hear a little bit about your background. Like, obviously, the Mountain Gazette is a kind of outdoorsy magazine, and I was looking at your LinkedIn, and not only do you have a long background in media, but it seems like you worked for several like outdoor media brands prior to that. So let's start there. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So I grew up in upstate New York, and I started writing for my local newspaper a little bit about skiing as an intern, mostly about outdoor adventure. I was blogging on a website called newschoolers.com. And to be honest with you, Simon, this is the only thing I'm good at. This is the only thing I know how to do. If this didn't work out, I have no idea what I would be doing right now.
Were you an avid skier growing up?
Yeah. So my dad got my sister and I on snow when we were about 5 years old. And it was night skiing. It was at this small spot called West Mountain in upstate New York. I could get out of school around like 2:30, 3 o'clock. My parents could drop me off and I would ski until 9 or sometimes 10 p.m. like pretty much every day when I could. And it was really good, rain or shine. And I think just being there all the time, it just became a part of sort of who I was and who I became and who I am now.
And you said you wrote for a blog. What, was it like just some independent blog that you ran or that someone else owned?
It was called newschoolers.com, and so it's still around today, and it was really cool. It was like it was kind of like a pre-social media, before social media, pre-YouTube, before YouTube. This is back in like 2002, and they had a website you could upload videos to, and people could comment on them. Internet was a little friendlier of a place back then, so that was really fun, and I was just using the tools that were in front of me, Simon. Like Facebook was this brand new thing in 2006 when I got to college. 2005, I think, really was when it was, and I just started using it to find pro athletes or filmmakers, photographers, and ask them politely, like, may I interview you for my blog? And I got a following, and I just never thought to monetize it. I was stoked when someone would send me a pair of goggles or a free jacket. That always felt pretty good when I was in college, and then slowly but surely I started getting some paychecks for it, and I'm 40 now. This is really all I've ever done.
So this wasn't New Schoolers, like you actually had your own like personal blog?
I did have that, but mostly I just wanted to write. I was an English literature and writing major in college, and every day I was going to school and learning some sort of new technique, new style of writing, new literary interpretation, literary criticism, and I just wanted to see if I could translate that into skiing and outdoor culture.
Yeah. And did you read like a lot of skiing media back then?
Kind of, I did and I didn't. Like, so when I was a kid, I did. My mom and dad had this great policy where the only thing I could ever ask for in a grocery store was a magazine. So I would go by and I wasn't looking for, home and gardening or people magazine. So I was getting Freeze or Powder or Ski magazine and outside occasionally. And was just kind of digging in. And I found pretty quickly that not only did I really enjoy the writing in there, but I also became critical of the writing in there too. If I felt like it was slipping or something wasn't up to the standards. And I think maybe from like a young age, like 9 or 10, I was already starting my editing career. I'd just be like, they could do better than that.
And what happened after you graduated college?
Gosh, man, I had no idea what I was going to do. I had an opportunity to write a senior thesis or make a documentary, and I actually made my senior year documentary about how I was going to find a job in the ski industry. And my advisors all thought it was pretty funny. It was like a good job application. I ended up getting picked up by a website called skitheeast.net. Back then it was a community-based website and a little bit of a clothing company. Now it's mostly a clothing brand and a bar in Burlington, Vermont. And we were trying to push boundaries of just like what we could do to rally a community together. It taught me a lot about community building, and I ran their website from an editorial standpoint. I helped put up new merchandise on the website, which really helped me with what I'm doing with Mountain Gazette now. And I was in Burlington for 2.5 years, and then I got the call to go be an editor at Powder Magazine. So I packed up my dog and my skis, and I moved across. Well, actually, it's kind of funny. I was intended to bring my dog out, and then about a month before my apartment told me I could not have a dog there. So I had to leave my dog behind,
And
which
where
sucks.
and where did you move to work for Powder?
San Clemente, California, Orange County, California, the heart of ski culture.
And so at the community, you said it was a community website before that you were at. What does that mean? Like it was like an online message board for skiers?
Yeah, a little bit, and mostly like just there was some weather, there was some games. It was really about it was regional, the Northeast. Northeast has an incredible ski culture because it's just so tight knit and it's bonded over trauma of just terrible conditions and rain and sleet and rocks and mud and ice and just kind of every condition you could ever get. And yeah, I would find that like every year that we would go out and do something, I would see the same people and they'd bring friends, and it was growing, and it was this thing where people just wanted to get together. And I mean, I joke trauma bond, but it was kind of like that. And then occasionally you'd get someone that had a great storm in Maine, and you'd be at an event in Vermont, and they'd be like, "Man, that was really great. Like, how was it?" And you'd be happy for people. Like, there was no FOMO. It was all just kind of positive vibes, and it just taught me like the value of building a community on the internet.
And what position at Powder did you get hired for?
I was the associate editor.
And I'm not familiar with the magazine. Is it like kind of like an outside, like kind of like outside where it's just about skiing enthusiasts and professionals, like kind of like a glossy magazine? Like what kind of magazine is it?
Kinda. So Powder was founded in 1972 by Jake and Dave Moe. For a very long time, for several decades, about 40 years or so, it was known as the Bible of skiing. It was sort of where you went to write about soulful ski articles there, and then slowly but surely it just kind of fell victim to social media and clickbait and listicles and all that. But when I was there, it felt pretty core, it felt pretty authentic. And for me, it was like a comedian getting to Saturday Night Live. I think for a long time, if you're a writer and you wanted to write about skiing in particular, you wanted to work at Powder Magazine. And so that was a really big thing. I was only 23 when I was hired there. So that was a big thing for me.
And this was sometime in the 2010s.
Yeah. Yep.
And so was it kind of like a jack of all trades type of position where you were like writing features and editing and putting the book together and different stuff like that?
Yeah, it was definitely an intro for me to making magazines. I'd always loved magazines, but it's where I kind of got my feet wet. I was hired to be an East Coast voice for the magazine, being that it was West Coast centric. It was founded in Sun Valley and had always been in California for since its founding, really. And then yeah, I did a lot of website stuff. I started their Instagram account, started their Twitter account, started their Facebook account, started kind of down the path of like just communicating with our audience, which Powder had never really done before, outside of like some like movie tour stops during the Powder to the People tour. And I think what I really wanted to do was make this place that felt so exclusive feel really inclusive. And I think I succeeded in that in a lot of ways. And yeah, I was there for 3 years and then decided to leave and move to North Lake Tahoe, where I live now.
And you said that it like entered like a clickbaity era, and obviously like the we'll get into talking about this, but Mountain Gazette is the opposite of that in every shape and form. Was that something that happened during your tenure, or is that something that you noticed like after you left?
I think it happened after, but like the seeds were planted there. I mean, I started that Instagram account. I mean, just as much as fault, the original sin was started by me securing that Instagram account. But, I think the big thing about publishing is that we've all sort of, most publishers have forgotten why people like them in the first place. It's that it's nice. We've always taken for granted in the United States how nice it is to have a trusted news source. And those news sources have never been huge financial grabs or cash cows or anything like that. I mean, well, let me put it this way: you can make a good living in media, but I don't think you should expect to make a great living like you can in maybe tech, or in this is AI or oil and gas or any of the other,
Yeah,
war.
you should
Probably a
expect a
good.
massive exit, basically.
No, I mean, I don't. I also don't think that media and journalism in particular, journalists that I know, photographers I know, cartoonists I know, they looking for an exit sounds terrible. Like this is a calling, and for a very long time, and I still believe this, that journalism is like medicine, is like law. It's something that needs to be practiced. It's something that needs to be perfected and advanced, and in all of those professions, honesty is the best thing for you to have. If you have a lawyer, you sure as shit want him to be telling you the truth. Same with a doctor, same with a journalist. And so I think what I learned about clickbait was like the incentive model was wrong. For me with Mountain Gazette, the way we set it up is I don't have enough space or enough time or enough issues to lie to our readers, because if we lie to them in one issue, they're gone. They're gone forever. And so we put a lot of emphasis on being truthful, on finding and telling people what we know, and more importantly, what we don't know. And so I find that clickbaity stuff was really incentivized by social media, just frankly not having very good content. You have to remember that at one point. So, I mean, I don't know. How old are you, Simon?
42.
42. So we're about the same age. Like you remember this, social media was just not very good content. And so what did these guys have to do? They partnered with media outlets so that you could read New York Times stories on Facebook.
Yeah,
And
I
that
mean,
was
the
better.
media created the monster of Facebook because they all put the like buttons all over their huge websites and directed people to follow them on Facebook. A lot of them like shut down their own comment section and said just go to social media, you can comment on our stories there. I don't think the average person realizes like how much like the media, for all it complains today about how Facebook gutted the business models, that they actually shipped a lot of their audiences over to Facebook and told them to go over there because they thought Facebook was like a
That's right.
partner that was going to be sending that traffic back to them.
We let the wolf into the hen house and then got upset when it just fucking ate all the chickens. Like literally, we're like, what the hell? And I mean, I can remember being at Powder in a performance review and someone telling me how great a story was because how many likes it got on Facebook. And then, I mean, I would think about that now, and had I had the hindsight that I have now, then I would have been like, well, how many people actually came over and read the story? Like maybe they just liked the headline and the photo we used. Like our SEO was like just outstanding on it. And I don't know. And I remember like it was kind of like a Wizard of Oz style, getting the curtain pulled back, on another publication, and finding out that their most popular, most read story of the last decade was not hard hitting journalism about going up Everest. It was not about like an avalanche death or like environmental story or climate change or anything like, or an athlete profile. The two most read stories were the top six sports bras for the summer of like 2003 and the top 10 ways to get your kid into summer camp. And I was like, what are we doing? We have trained our audience to only like, this is all servicey journalism. No one, we have trained our audience to not give a shit about what's actually happening in the world. And that felt pretty bad to me.
So you left Powder. I know at some point you started kind of your own kind of production company that created content.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was up on behalf of like outdoors companies. So like what was that?
I just like needed to leave skiing behind for a little bit. I mean, I was still skiing a lot, but from a professional standpoint, I think the big question I had was I'd only told stories about skiers and skiing and mountains and snow, and I wanted to see if I could tell other types of stories. And so my first, we created Verb Cabin in a cabin in Verbier, Switzerland. I was over there on a ski documentary trip, and the filmmaker and I were like, yeah, Verb Cabin, cool, we're here, let's just do this. We combined our resumes, we pitched a job, and then a month later we were in Haiti for 14 days with an artist from Brooklyn doing something that was way outside of our comfort zones, but we nailed it. We did really well with it. It had the film had a residency alongside the artist's artwork in the Brooklyn Museum for a while.
And would you,
I just
how
like,
would you describe what
yeah.
it is though? Like, is it like a marketing agency, a content agency, a creative
We were a
agency?
short, we made, I mean, I wouldn't call myself we made short form documentaries, and my pitch was always a hard one. I was like, if you give us the money to make this, we will go find out the truth about your business. And so it really didn't work for a lot of people. They were like, wait, I don't understand. But we would make what we would call these hero assets, where I would ask questions to customers, to athletes that represented the brand, to people making the stuff for the brand. And what you'd end up finding was that there were people working at these big companies, say like Grundon's, this fishing company, where that was their entire identity. And I mean that in a good way. Like, I mean, like they had a lot of pride in going to the office every day, of wearing their company colors, of showing up to the company Christmas party and like hugging their friends, and that they knew each other. And I found that was it marketing material? For sure it was, and it was used that way. But what I liked was it was infallible. Like it had no, you couldn't poke holes in it because it was true. And when we could get, when I could convince a company that they should do that, it worked. It worked almost every time. Like it was only when the company interfered was like, well, we want to present this way. That was when it was like, well, dude, that's not who you are. And honestly, it was a way for me to pay the bills. I was still freelance writing a little bit for Vice Sports at the time, and I took an editorship at the Ski Journal for a little while to get back into magazines. And when I was back at the Ski Journal, when I mean back in magazines at the Ski Journal, that really set me off on the like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I hate making stuff for the internet, man. It sucks. I just think it's like throwing a penny into a volcano. It's just like, what are we making a wish here? Like, what is the point of this? Like, it's so gross, and you're just like algorithm catching all the time. And it just doesn't sound fun to me.
So Ski Journal was another print magazine that you went to work for.
Yep. Four issues a year, independently owned by a nice family up in Washington State.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to get into talking about. Is this like I think you were maybe featured in a New York Times article I read like a year ago or something like that about this kind of, and I write about this in my own newsletter, the media newsletter about this kind of print revival, but it's no longer treating print as mass media. It's treating it as this kind of bespoke collector's item type of thing, and that's what Ski Journal was. It was like a quarterly, like beautiful magazine, family owned of some sort.
Yeah, coffee tips. So like, there's a lot of origins of like how this all started, and I think anyone who claims that they started it's probably wrong. I will gladly say I did not start the great print revival. I mean, you could argue that there was a time where when you walked into an American's house, if they didn't have Life magazine on their coffee table, they probably weren't well informed. Like the New Yorker on your coffee table says something about you. And I think with the Ski Journal, what I learned was that you didn't need a lot of readers. You just need passionate ones who are willing to just fork over their money every year and that there was a ton of freedom, like way more freedom than I ever had at Powder, where you could just kind of write and photograph and illustrate what you wanted. And what I found was really cool about that was that most editors that are younger than me don't know how to do that. Actually, many editors that are older than me don't know how to do that either, because we've always been beholden to advertising revenue. And so this subscriber model it's really smart. It makes a lot of sense. It's sustainable. There's no quick algorithm changes that totally F over your business model. So
Yeah.
it really works for me.
Were you continuing to run the production company while you were doing that?
I was, yeah. The Ski Journal paid for exactly the cost of my son's childcare. So it was a great gig. It was like, oh, perfect. There's a leaky hole in the dam, and I can put 4 magazines in there, and it'll stop the dam from leaking. So it worked out quite well for us, yeah.
So you eventually buy the Mountain Gazette, and I definitely want to hear the story of how you did that. Could you just give us a quick primer on the history of this magazine?
Yeah, so it's celebrating its 60th anniversary this year. It was founded in 1966 by an editor named Mike Moore in Colorado. It was called the Skiers Gazette. At one point, it was called Skiers Gazette Weekly. Shows how frequently it was coming out. And it was sort of alternative skiing. 60s counterculture was rampant in the United States. You have Vietnam War going on. There's a lot of protests. Earth Day is getting started. There's just a lot going on, and mountain culture was really starting to blossom. In 72, they changed the name to Mountain Gazette so they could cover broader topics. And I think that's just the nature of ski magazines in general, is like skiers are so much more than going up and going down. There's so much that happens in the middle and off the hill and everywhere. We're artists, we're musicians, and so Mountain Gazette made a lot of sense in 72. It ran till 1979. It had contributors like Dick Dorworth, George Sibley, Edward Abbey, Hunter S. Thompson were writing for it. It died in 79 just due to lack of advertising. I think it was really tough because it was very regional. And I just don't think the outdoor advertisers knew what to do with it at a certain point. Patagonia was basically launched in here with Pacific Ironworks through Yvon Chouinard. Doug Tompkins launched the North Face ads in the Gazette in the 70s. REI, JanSport, Reichly, all these legendary outdoor brands were all ad partners. And I think at a certain point it just ran its course. There was a revival effort in 84. I was born in 85. Mountain Gazette was not reborn in 85. It just never really happened. And then finally in 1999, George Stranahan got some money together and helped bring it back with John Fahey. And they brought it back from 2000 to 2012.
And what did it look like
monthly.
then? It was okay. So it was a free monthly that they were sending out.
Free
Where?
monthly, and you got to remember that era, that was the era of us all being so excited about craft beer and finally starting to write about weed in magazines and concerts. And digital music was everywhere, and people were really getting it was a really cool time in outdoor, and they did a good job covering that. It died in 2012 after being bought and sold a bunch of times, and then I bought it in January of 2020.
And it was in the morning at a bar or something. I saw the video. We were talking about it.
Yeah. So there's always more to it, but the internet only allows you so much space. So I was in Alaska working on a short documentary with Grundens. The owner of Grundens, the founder of Grundens USA, Mike Jackson,
What
and his
is
son,
Grundens?
Matt. So if you've ever watched Deadliest Catch, they're wearing orange bibs, bright orange bibs, like the color of a lacy hard drive orange bib. That's Grundens. They make protective gear for commercial fishing. And commercial fishing is fucking rad because it's the only form of fishing that's not pretentious. They are badasses out there catching America's salmon and king crab and just very cool, very down to earth blue collar people. And I loved working for that brand because I never met anyone who was a bullshitter. They were all just honest to God, look you in the eye, nice people, strong handshakes, really good folks, work really hard for their money. And so I was up there, and what I always liked about Mike is that Grundon's had grown to this like multi-million dollar business. He and Matt still visited every shop. They still called shops. They still knew their customers. They knew their customers' spouses' names. If their kids had graduated high school, like they gave a shit about their business. And so coming off Ski Journal and coming off of, just like working with Grundon's, I realized that like that was the way I wanted to run a magazine one day. And a friend called me when I was in Alaska and said, look, I've talked to the owner of Mountain Gazette. It's for sale. It's in a storage unit. It's just a bunch of old magazines, and like the website's still good. They still own it. There's no debt on it. It's owned. So do you want to call them? So I bought $38 an hour internet up in Alaska and logged on and did a little FaceTime audio with the owner, Blake. We chatted for a little bit. He wanted much more than what I paid for it. And I was like, can we keep talking? And we just talked. I told him exactly what I wanted to do. And to be fair to myself on this, what I want to do with Mountain Gazette is exactly what I'm doing with Mountain Gazette right now. I want it to be large format, twice a year, huge photos, huge art, limited advertising, subscriber based. That was it. Maybe a little merch. And that was that. And so he just like kind of fell in love with the idea. And we met at a bar in Denver, his choice. I wrote out a check from the Verb Cabin checking account. I'd set some money aside, and it was for $5,000. I have no problem telling people that. Blake's fine with me telling that. I asked the hotel desk clerk, if she had an envelope. So she gave me like a Best Western envelope. I stuffed the check in. We sat down. The waitress came over and said, can I get you guys anything? And he said, well, just a minute. We're going to have some business. Let's see if we're going to sit and enjoy ourselves if we're going to leave. And so I said, Blake, this is all I have. The only way I can do this is without investors. This can't be a private equity play or anything like that. It has to be pure. And he opened up the envelope. He looked at the amount and he shrugged his shoulders and he goes, if the check clears, it's yours. And you're buying me a beer. And so he ordered 2 Coors Banquet beers. And so for $5,000 and the cost of a Denver banquet, 2 banquet beers, we wrote up a bill of sale on a notebook. It's like actually right over there. It's framed. We went across the street to the outdoor retailer show. Dan Abrams, the owner of Flylow, which is an outerwear company, who also officiated my wife and I's wedding, signed it as a witness. And then I did my first interview with the guy that's now our senior editor, our managing editor, Doug Schnitzbahn. And we were like, okay, it's January of 2020. What can go wrong? Let's start a magazine.
And to be clear,
Yeah.
you were not buying any operations. You were just buying the right to basically just the right to call your magazine the Mountain Gazette, right?
Oh, and like a bunch of old cocktail napkins, a bunch of extra small and triple XL T-shirts that they hadn't gotten rid of, the URL, the trademark to Mountain Gazette, our entire archive, which was massive. I mean, I got a hard drive that just had the archives of mountaingazette.com on it. So every storm, everything that had ever been written on there, about 40 or 50 boxes of dusty old magazines. I bought the business. It's what's known as an asset transfer. So everything that Blake's LLC owned was transferred over to Verb Cabin, yeah.
But other than just the coolness factor of owning the web archives and the old dusty magazines, does that play a factor into the? I guess the question I'm getting at is like, why not just start a brand new magazine? Like, what was the brand so strong that
Oh,
you
yeah.
like it was worth it to spend that $5,000 on that, or was there something in those
Yeah.
archives or in those dusty old magazines that somehow gave it some extra value? Just want to try to understand like what was the actual value of the thing that you were buying.
Totally, Simon. I get this question a lot. We in the outdoor industry preach a lot of like recycle culture. Recycle. Don't buy no gear. Don't buy no gear. The funniest thing is if people don't buy new gear, there's no outdoor industry. It's gone. There's some recreation industry that's a little different. My thing that has always bugged me is that I wanted to write for Powder because Keith Carlson wrote for Powder, because Chris O'Connell had shot for powder because my heroes were in there. These people that like meant a lot to me and changed my life were there. And I don't know that I would have wanted to write for a magazine that wasn't called Powder because it was Powder. Like I'm a Mets fan, as you can tell by my hat, but it's sort of like people playing for, I don't know if anyone wants to play for the Mets right now. We're pretty bad, but it's like playing for the Red Sox or the Yankees. Like you want to play there because Ted Williams was there, because Mickey Mantle was there, like you want to be a part of a history and a legacy and a culture. And for me, I thought today's writers deserve to be with Hunter S. Thompson and Edward Abbey and John Fahey and Galen Rowell and Royal Robbins. And like, I was like, we have our version of Royal Robbins, it's Jeremy Jones. Like we're doing, and by we, I don't mean Mountain Gazette, I mean people are contributing verses to the universe every day in really profound, cool ways in outdoor culture. And to think that we don't belong in that pantheon is wrong. And I also felt like it wasn't right for today's writers to not measure themselves up against those previous giants of our genre. Outdoor literature is the one that people love when there's a breakthrough, when there's a Cheryl Strayed, when there's John Krakauer. But what's crazy is outdoor literature is some of the oldest literature ever. People have been outside much longer than they've been inside. And for me, Mountain Gazette just had this legacy and this history that I felt deserved to be preserved. And so much so that like our big announcement this fall is that the entirety of our archive has been donated to the Nevada Museum of Art in Reno, and it'll be preserved there forever. It's an endowed museum. It's through the state. It's a privately held museum, but they've got a lot of grants, a lot of funding, and Mountain Gazette's never going back to a storage unit ever again. Like it's something that future generations will be able to look to and learn from. And I felt like, I don't know, dude. I'm not a car guy, but it's like resurrecting an old car. Like it could sit in a field like a piece of shit, or you could like actually bring it to a garage and work on it. And I knew how to work on it. I don't know how to do anything with a gas powered vehicle, man. Not a thing. But I know how to fix this particular old magazine. And that was I just wanted to do it.
So, so you only had $5,000 to buy this thing. Like, what did it take? And it didn't have any, like, it had a URL and stuff like that, maybe, but like, there wasn't some kind of like already existing distribution. You had to basically rebuild everything from scratch. So, how did you do that on like a shoestring budget? You said you hired someone. So, like, what did it take to actually get the magazine up and running?
Well, so I bought it at the end of January. We all know what happens 2 months later in 2020, like COVID hits. My wife worked in the travel industry. I was making documentary films that required travel. We had a young son. We got a bunch of magazines delivered to our house and we started reading them. We just started checking, and like hundreds of them. And first thing I needed to know was what I had bought, like what was I grasping? And then I started talking to friends. Jason Leventhal from Line Skis, now J Skis, hit me up with this email that was called like the Ninja's Guide to Shopify 101, and it was basically his way of like running a business on Shopify, soup to nuts. Like here's how you use Shopify. I talked to Luke Jacobson from Moment Skis and Dan Abrams from Philo about like how they had started their business, what kind of money they had taken on. I knew I didn't want to take on money. What we did have was we had these really cool archival covers, and people wanted to know what I was going to do with it. And so I put these covers online and started selling them as prints, and said, "Look, like, just if you buy, I don't want you to give me money. Like, that's not. If you see a print you like, purchase it and know that I'll use that money to continue this journey." And I was sending out emails through Klaviyo, just letting people know, like, hey, this is what's going on. And then I found him through Moment Skis, Merritt Lentz, to build mountaingazette.com, to rebuild our subscription platform. And when I say build it, like, I wasn't like, go build this. Like, we were doing what we're doing right now, like being on like a video call through COVID, figuring it out, working it out. And then on July 1st, 2020, we relaunched mountaingazette.com, and we got 3 subscribers that first day. And I was like, cool, I'm making a magazine. I knew I had to sell like 250 or so copies in order to break even. And so I was emailing people. I was doing interviews. The Colorado Sun did a great, Jason Blevins did a great piece on us about me bringing it back. I was like literally driving back across the country from New York. I wanted to see my parents, and so we drove back across the country to see my parents in a van. I was coming back and like ran into Blevins, and you did this story, and we got to 250 after like maybe a month and a half, and I was like, cool, like I'm not in debt, and I thought that was really cool that I could make 1,000 magazines and not be any debt, and that's paying people too. I didn't ask anyone to do anything for me for free. That was like a big thing. No free interns, no unpaid interns, no like media is built on freemium bullshit all the time. I was like, no, we're going to value people's work and we're going to do this. And then that first issue came out and the reviews were insane and people started doing this thing that they still do, which is they started unboxing the magazine and being like, I mean, my friend Jamie Voss, who's a brilliant writer, and he sent out this tweet that was like Surfer's Journal, Ski Journal and Mountain Gazette, like these are the premium magazines of our time. And I was like, dude, we had put out one issue to be compared to those other two, felt really special. And we started getting ad partners, ad interests. I think the biggest thing was people were like, okay, you did one, can you do two? We sold out in December of that year of our second or of our first issue, and I was like, oh man, we made 1,000 copies and we're done now. You know what I mean? Like we get to make the next one.
How much were
Made
you
the next
charging?
one.
How much were you charging for that first issue?
We were charging $60 plus $9.99 ships, so $70
For that one issue?
for two issues.
For two
I knew I
issues?
was going to make a second. I knew I could do it.
And was that as like a recurring subscription, or you just paid $70 that
Yeah,
would get you two
reoccurring,
issues? Okay, so it was like
reoccurring
so they were
subscription.
signing up for $70 a year.
$70 a year, and
Yeah,
we will give
so
you two issues.
yeah, so and that kind of paints a picture for people listening that like this isn't a one of those like Time magazines where you're basically signing up for like $1 per issue. Like what's going into the price is the cost of the entire magazine, not just the paper and the delivery. Like this is a premium, almost like a book like product where yeah, maybe there's some advertising and we could talk about that in a second, but like the subscriptions are the main thing that's actually funding the entire magazine.
It's the whole thing. And what that does as a reader is it puts you in control, which I like. We're beholden to our readers. We don't pander to them. We tell them that all the time. We're not going to give you like chicken soup for the outdoor soul. We're going to challenge you. We will do something on gun control and something on hunting in the next, like we are there to buck preconceived notions of what it means to be outdoor. And so,
And and it's not like they're like pay. It's not like you're putting these articles online behind a paywall or anything.
no,
Like if you want to read the Mountain Gazette, you have to subscribe to the print version. There's no online version.
there's no online version.
Yeah, and the
No,
on the website is basically kind of like cool branding, but it's basically a storefront, like where
that's
you
all it is.
where
Yeah.
you can subscribe to the magazine, and we'll talk about the other stuff like the merch and stuff like that. But it purely it serves as like an e-commerce website more than like what we typical think of like a media website.
Oh, yeah. It is not a CMS in any way, shape, or form, dude. It is a Shopify store. And my thought was, I always disliked when I would pay for a subscription to something and then the article would be free on the internet 2 weeks later. I was like, well, why did I pay for this? I can just wait. Like it's a terrible business model. I still think the business model I tell people all the time is tell me a product that's available that costs you money to make and give it away for free and show me how you make money. And everyone's like, well, YouTube, ish. I think YouTubing and podcasting and online blogging and writing and all that stuff, like there's a lot of diminishing returns. I think for the amount of work that you put into this, Simon, like I mean, I I hope you're making great money. I think it's very hard though to turn to turn a profit on the internet.
So was it mostly just you writing the articles to begin with, or did you always have like a freelancer budget from the very beginning?
It was not going to be my personal journal, so I always made a freelancer budget. They're built into the cost of it. So our budget was proportionate to how many subscribers we had. And, we have spent more per issue for 13 issues now running than the last one. And then we just keep upping that. We were able to send a contributor to Europe for 6 weeks last summer and hire a photographer to join him for a few of those trips. And it ended up being a 31,000 word piece that currently you can only read in the Mountain Gazette. So I think what's cool is we get to tell people this is what we did with your money. It's something I took from some friends in nonprofit. Of the best nonprofits are the ones that show you you donate $100 and this is where your money goes. And I think that's it. We're really transparent about this is where your money goes. Your money goes to paying Steve Martin and Harry Bliss to make cartoons for us.
And does it remain
So
just twice a year? That's how often you
yeah,
publish. Yeah.
yeah. The first issue was 122 pages, I think. We were at 160 for a while, and now we're up to 192 pages. We want to stay there.
192
So
pages twice a year. So you get that first 1,000 subscribers by the second issue. So as you're continuing to grow, what was that allowing you to do? Like as the subscriber base joined, were you able to start printing on bigger pieces of paper, get higher quality or get more marquee writers? How did the business evolve once it really started taking off?
So I was always telling writers, photographers, and artists, this is what I can pay you. I was always transparent up front. This is what we can pay you, and we'll pay you early. If we're not going to make you wait 6 months. So we, at 3,000 subscribers, I didn't have to make movies anymore. That was pretty cool. At 5,000 or 4,000 subscribers or so, I hired my friend Austin to be our marketing manager. He was just part time. He was freelancing. He had a bunch of jobs. He's now our general manager full time. I hired Connor Sedmak in a sales role with crazy commission. It was eat what you can kill, and we're in this together.
A sales role
I
for
hired
ads.
So we only have 12, about 12 ad spots per issue. They're all in the front and the back. We believe in having 170 pages or so of uninterrupted editorial. So, and everyone, the other thing, man, is everyone knows the game. Mountain Gazette readers know they're not going to open up their magazine and see a North Face ad in the middle of a feature. We're not going to do that. We're going to keep everything pure, everything uninterrupted. There's no sponsored content. We don't do sponsored Instagram posts. We don't do sponsored email, stuff like that. That's it. We figured out from some PR companies early on that they would give us free trips, and we said, can we give them to our readers? So we started growing our email list by giving away sweet trips that they wanted to give to us. We're oh no, we don't want to go to Costa Rica to go surfing. It sounds fun, but can we give that to a reader through an email contest? And so we grew at one. Truly, we still are growing at one reader at a time, and it's worked out really well.
It's you mentioned a newsletter. Do you create any kind of online content? What are you doing to communicate with readers or audience in between those two issues?
We have a Sunday email that we send out that's written by Hannah Truby. She's been with us for a few years, and that's sort of just here's what we heard this week. Here's some news from the Mountain Gazette world of things contributors are doing, things, books we like, movies or podcasts we've appeared on. We'll probably share this podcast in there. And then we email them to see if they moved, to update their credit cards if they've expired, and just sort of preview what's in the next issue. And that's it. And then social, we kind of we're on Instagram. We do paid media because it's a good acquisition strategy. We kind of just make fun of social media every time we hit a milestone. We hit 150,000 followers, and we're this number means absolutely nothing to us. And I don't know. We're just there's just not much that's telling me that I need to play in that yard right now.
Yeah. When you say you do paid acquisition, what exactly are you acquiring? Like, are you trying to get people to sign up for the newsletter with your paid?
Subscriptions.
Oh, you're actually just like
Yeah.
straight up just come buy a subscription, basically.
We did a vid. So a couple years ago, I'd done this short form doc, and I told you I was convincing brands to just be honest and tell their story. And I was like, well, I should follow my own advice. And so I wrote a script, and it starts with, "Hi, I'm Mike Rogge, and this is what I did. I bought it. You saw the video, and like we ran that. That thing's been viewed probably 30 million times, and it is something that I've been recognized on the streets of New York for. I have been invited on a bunch of podcasts for. I've appeared on some panels. Like, it kind of changed everything for us, and we grew from about 4,000 or so subscribers to where we are today, which is like 33,000 subscribers, give or take. Yeah, it
And
happened in about 2 years. Yeah.
and that was how much of that was paid acquisition versus just organic word of mouth? Do you think?
I mean, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. That's the funny thing about Facebook and Meta. They attribute everything to them. And we're like, oh, come on, guys. I mean, we find a lot of people, the people that I meet tell me kind of the same story over and over again, which is that they were at a friend's house. They walked in, they saw Mountain Gazette, this huge outdoor magazine. They usually say something to the effect of, "What the fuck is this?" Is usually, like, honestly, almost everyone says those exact words, "What the F is this?" And then they are like, "Yeah," and I just like signed up, and I've been a subscriber for 2 years, and I love it. And what I really like is our readers are all super normal people. I've yet to have a weird interaction with any of them in real life. They don't fan out, they don't get weird. They're just like, "Hey, man," and they usually want to just talk about what they read, which it's 2026, dude. Like, that's what people are not doing, or we're being told everywhere. People don't do that anymore. It happens at the playground here in Tahoe. It happens in bars in New York. It happens everywhere. Our writers say that they hear more about their Mountain Gazette pieces that are print only, mind you, like, than anything they publish online. And I think what it is just it's a microcosm. I mean, vinyl record sales are up like crazy, and live events are up, sporting events are up, concerts are up. Like, people want to go to these things, and I think it's just I think it's a symptom of post COVID, and also like, just, Jesus Christ, who wants to be on their phone anymore? It's so brutal. Like, it doesn't make you feel good. The first few years of an iPhone were nice because it could optimize your life a little bit so you could spend more time in the real world. Now you are like, just like, you're forced to be like magnetized nose to phone, and just, I don't know. I think we can be one of the antidotes to this problem of just people spending too much time on the internet.
So you mentioned like the friend coming over and seeing it on the coffee table, like that's what you expect the magazine to be featured. Like, it's considered, you can kind of want to position it as like a collector's item, something that someone, they wouldn't just throw in their magazine rack, that it would be somewhere like prominently positioned in the home or something, or an office or something like that.
Yes, and I'll tell you the thing that I find to be the best. So just because we're here, I'm hopping on my phone. I just went to eBay and I just typed in Mountain Gazette. And I want to show you. The first thing there is Mountain Gazette 202 from 2024. It's $50 right there on eBay. There's a $44 trucker. Someone's selling our $25 trucker hat for 44 bucks. Here's 1970s Mountain Gazette, 49 issues, $750. I'm just showing you this. What I found was that people like cool stuff. They like stuff that's made intentionally. We don't control the aftermarket of this whatsoever. My mother-in-law sold her complete set of the Mountain Gazettes that I've made for about $3,000 last summer, and donated it all to a charity that her sister had loved when she was alive. And so, yeah, we want it to be something special. I mean, $45, $50, $50, $50, $21. Like, yeah, I mean, $129. Like, these are all prices of print only magazines. And My wife had knee surgery and is doing physical therapy right now, Simon. And she came home today and she goes, "So my PT's husband needs Mountain Gazette 202 and 203. He missed his subscription lapsed and he really needs them." And I'm like, we have two copies for our family. I'm not trying to sit on a bunch. So it's meant to be special because it is special.
What have you had to learn about print logistics and all that kind of stuff since, like, I know you were doing a little bit of that at the previous jobs and stuff like that, but have you, especially like I've talked to some print publishers talking about, inflation and how, they've seen like a really sharp rise in their costs and stuff like just in the last few years. What has that been like for you?
We used to print in Canada, and when the current president pulled off his like bullshit illegal tariff thing, and that's not political. Like the Supreme Court said it was illegal, and it was bullshit. We had we had a company in Canada that tried to inflate prices, which is funny because there are no tariffs on printed goods due to like a treaty that Richard Nixon signed. So I'm learning about treaties that Richard Nixon signed with Canada and Mexico. Ironically, it was signed because they didn't want any of the nations to fall under tyranny, and they thought the free flow of information was very important to the alliance of North America. I have learned that if you're going to make something on paper, it really just shouldn't be a throwaway. I think there's a real argument that some things could just be an email. None of our none of our stuff can be emails. It's just not what we make. We make long form, deeply investigative fact check journalism, deeply felt, lived, experienced essays and poetry and art and like I've kind of learned so far that pretty much everything on the internet is hyperbolic. Like the tariffs were bad, but I was just like, okay, we'll just go to a US printer. Like we're at Walsworth in Missouri, and if they have their way and we have our way, we're never switching. We really like working with them, and like I'm a New York born Californian. Like I shouldn't have anything in common with the folks in Missouri, but I actually have a ton in common with them. And I guess, man, like maybe this isn't what you expected from that question, but we have subscribers in all 50 states. And there are outdoor people and people who love going outside everywhere and in cities and everything. And the thing that I've learned the most from making a print magazine is people just want to be seen and they want to be respected and they want their choices of what they buy to be respected. If we sent them a piece of crap, they'd be really pissed. But we really respect them. We have a policy and people don't take advantage of it. If you send us a picture of your magazine and like the post office messed it up or your dog ate it, it's only a dog. We won't accept cat related accidents. We'll replace it for free. And we do. We do. And that's like, if we were owned by private equity or something, they'd be like, that's a margin hit. You can't do that. And I'm like, dude, these people work hard. People work hard to make money. Full stop. And if it shows up not the way they expected it to, I think that's what we get from my wife, that's our vice president, is like, is that idea of hospitality and just trying to take care of people. And also being honest with people. I have an out of office up right now that says like I might not answer emails this summer because I'm working on a book project. And like, I'm not trying to be funny or an asshole. I'm just being honest with people. And I think it's better just to be honest. And I don't know, that's what I've learned the most, man. It's just like people want you to be honest and they want you to deliver what you say you're going to deliver.
Is there any way that you, like, official way that you interact with your audience through events or anything like that?
Not really, but we're working on it. So so before we started recording, I told you I was just in your neck of the woods in DC, and I gave a speech to the Library of Congress. About 75 people showed up, and it was incredible. Like, I had such a great time meeting our readers. Like I said, I mean, there are people that we like the same things. Maybe they're not as obsessed with skiing as I am. They're into like running or fishing or something else, but like inherently we all go outside for the same reasons, which is to, it's recreate, to recreate yourself. That's why you go out, is to feel anew. And we are now finally, we're going to explore maybe bring a Mountain Gazette on the road in the future. I can't say what we don't have it. It's not like a tease. Like we don't like we haven't even hired this person yet, But we're just thinking down the line that we just kind of want to get the community together. We've done a couple things. We did a concert here in Tahoe, and it was amazing with people that drove up from Los Angeles, which is like driving from, Myrtle Beach to Boston. It's kind of a long drive, and it was cool. Like we've had a really good experience, and we're trying to figure out how to get people more together where we can.
Do you think it would be getting them together for like an outdoorsy experience or some kind of like conference, or like what do you think it will be? Or just random bespoke things?
I think it's random bespoke things. Our art director's got a couple shows this summer, so we thought about maybe just sending. He's a acoustic guitar, singer songwriter, on the side of being our art director, and I was like, we should just like totally troll John and just like he's expecting like 6 people to show up to his show, but we just email our whole list and we're like, hey, we're gonna be here on this date and try to get like a few hundred people in a bar. I don't know, man. I don't like charging for outdoor activities. I think it's already expensive enough. And I think conferences are money grabs. Like, I've met good people at print conferences, but I've also been like, wow, I had to do a lot of wading through bullshit to find the 3 people that I wanted to meet here. Like, I do think we kind of have to allow random encounters to happen. We've had some good ones, like our sales guy I mentioned, like, he got married last summer and his sweet now wife, but fiance at the time, did not know their officiant used a copy of Mountain Gazette 200 as like her book when she was reading, and we've had dads that have brought Mountain Gazette into the room after their first child is born and they're reading their baby the Jaded Local column. And I'm getting chills talking about this because that was not my intention, Simon, when I started this. I wanted to, like I said, just give writers and the creators a space that they deserved. But what's been very cool is our audience has elevated our magazine to something. I mean, there's some people that are wild and cut up the magazine and make original art with it. There's coffee shops that have 4 subscriptions that 3 go out into the shop and one's kind of the shop copy for people that are on break. And I don't know, like it's cool that it feels like it's living its own. The magazines are living their own lives. The issues are living their own lives outside of anything we could ever track, And we just show this stuff to our ad partners when we go to them, and they're like, "Well, what are your metrics?" I'm like, "I don't know. What's a baby being read a Hans Ludwig story in the first moments of its life worth to you?" You know what I mean? Like we can't put a price on that, and so, we just try to keep it honest and keep it real, and I think our readers do the same thing. And they tell us, man, I'm telling you right now, with this war going on and everything, like we've had a lot of people that have canceled this year and told us like, hey, I love this magazine, I just can't afford it. And we have a thing set up when they cancel that we email you 6 months after, not to ask you to come. There's no like, come back to Mountain Gazette for half off. We're like, we go to her just like, hey, how are you doing? And we've had some really good interactions from that. Like, we just give a shit in a real way.
Yeah, I noticed that you have like you sell prints on the website, and you have like a merch store and stuff like that with like various designs on like shirts and tote bags and stuff like that. How big a part of that is that like a big part of your business? How do you think about that as like as being something that you do? Obviously, the New Yorker tote bag has become kind of its own fashion item, so that can be a big part of some people's media businesses. What is that for you?
The tote bag's probably our worst selling item. I think our readers have enough. Have enough of them. We do a lot of hats. We do a lot of sweatshirts. We do a lot of t-shirts. I kind of feel like where we are as a magazine is we're kind of like a band that unfortunately your friend knows about and you don't know about, and so naturally they want to just like wear the t-shirt and just wait for someone at a bar to be like, "What's that?" And then you get to be like, "Oh, you've never heard of Nirvana? Let me tell you about Nirvana." You know what I mean? Like, I will, our readers do that. We have a lot of people in the print industry, which is really, really cool, and the publishing industry that buy our print. We trademarked "Print Ain't Dead," We call it our grammatical nightmare slogan. And we get like, I'm working on a book with Penguin Random House right now, and for their break room, like we got them, I think 20 mugs that say "Print Ain't Dead," which is kind of a funny thing to have in a midtown Manhattan, biggest publisher in the world. Um, and yeah, I don't know. It's just something we have fun with. Sometimes we'll do like charitable things for Protect Our Winters, or we'll do GoFundMe's for small organizations. We helped out with flood relief in North Carolina. We kind of let our readers just sort of like tell us where to go with that stuff, and our artists make funny stuff. Like the Dead Dirtbag made a thing that's an Apple core. It says "still core" after all these years, and I'm like, it's so corny. If you call yourself core, you're like not core. So
So when you look ahead, like 2 to 3 years from now, what do you want to be doing that you're not currently doing? Like, what are your ambitions for the magazine?
um honestly, man, uh I want to keep doing what we're doing right now.
Yeah, you don't strike
I
me as the
think
guys like I want to launch three new magazines and other verticals that are adjacent to outdoor to mountain mountaineering or something like that.
no, we made a book. We made an anthology book that I'm like our team is really proud of, and I'm really proud of. It's the first printed thing we made that is in stock all the time. Like we made 10,000, but like we might sell out of 10,000 copies in the first year. We've sold almost 7,000, I think now. I mean, maybe a little less. Like I think it's actually less. It's like 6,200 copies. I haven't checked the Shopify today, but I love making books, and that's not like I am not trying to call the magazine a book. The magazine's a magazine, and it is what it is. And I'm very proud of it, and we want to keep that format. In 2 or 3 years, I'd like to find new voices. I'd like to give opportunities to other voices that feel like I mean, one of the reasons why Harry Bliss and Steve Martin make a cartoon for us every issue the last couple of years is we don't tell them what to do, which I think is really fun. I'm I want to make sure our staff is happy, our readers are happy. I just wrote my intro to the fall issue, and that's kind of what it's about. Is I turned 40 and I started running, which I hate. I hate running. I've never been a runner. But what I like about it is it allows me to kind of adjust my moral compass and figure out if we're headed in the right direction or not. And right now it feels like we are. I feel like we have something that's pretty rare in this world. And I don't want to ruin or betray anyone's trust or sell 10% so I can buy a boat. Like the lake's too cold in Tahoe. I don't really want to get a boat. Like, I don't know. I just want to keep doing. My kids are young. They're seeing me do this. I don't think they totally know what I do. Some of their parents are in crypto. So I think it's like, yeah, some of their friends' parents are in crypto. So I don't think that I'm sort of just like the weird parent at pickup. And I kind of want to just keep doing that, man. Keep making magazines, keep talking to folks like you that care about the media and try to spread this message that doesn't have to be, if something is fucked up, it doesn't have to be that way. Like I was very upset with how magazines were for a long time. And I know this is an entrepreneurial story. Like, oh, so I changed it. I wasn't trying to change the world. I just kind of wanted to prove that you could do it this way. And what's cool is a lot of magazines have popped up after us. And now there's this pretty robust independent magazine ecosystem. And so I guess what I would say for the industry is in 2 or 3 years, I would love to see some more magazines that have our amount of subscribers, and that you have these freelancers who are freelancing for just a couple independent magazines a year, and they're earning a living and they're paying a mortgage and they're raising a family with it. That would be the most 1990s throwback thing we could do as a print magazine, is to actually support people in that kind of way. I mean, we're only twice a year. There's only so much we can pay people to make stuff for us, but we don't want someone to write a 90,000 word piece for us. But I feel like maybe one of our writers has just got that idea. So, but yeah.
Okay, Mike, those were all the questions I had for you. Where can people find you online?
We're at mountaingazette.com/subscribe. That's kind of all you need to know. And then just wait a little while and you'll get a massive package. Your roommate or your wife or your husband will say, "What the hell is this?" And be surprised when you open it. Your kids will like it too. So,
Awesome. Well, this is a lot of fun. Thanks for joining me.
thanks, Simon.